it's Katrina. Number 10. The Ouroboros. The word Ouroboros means tail devourer in Greek, but it's also one of the most ancient symbols seen across the globe throughout history in many different cultures. The oldest known Ouroboros symbol was found in the tomb of King Tutankhamun, emblazoned on a golden shrine that was dated to the 13th century BC. Leading Egyptologist Jan Assmann says the symbol referred to the mystery of time and suggested that time has the ability to flow back into itself. The Egyptians understood time as a series of cycles, not something that only moves in a linear direction. The Ouroboros was a symbol of time's endless cycle of perpetual birth and rebirth. Since the days of ancient Egypt, the Ouroboros has appeared everywhere. It's one of the oldest symbols in alchemy, representing the concept of endless return. An alchemical papyrus from the 3rd century AD used the Ouroboros to represent the creation of gold. And on that same papyrus, the symbol is seen with a single line of text which translates to, "One is all." Moving forward in time, the Ouroboros appears as one of the most important symbols in the early Gnostic communities following the birth of Christ. This time, the symbol was a representation of the divine and the earthly and how the union between the two exists in an endless circle. The Ouroboros can be compared to the yin and yang symbol in ancient China. It even appears in ancient Norse mythology, with the great serpent Jormungandr encircling the world with his tail. And in Hinduism, the Ouroboros forms the foundation upon which the earth rests.
And now for number 9. But first, it's shoutout time! I want to give a big thank you to Rentastrophe and Chris Neal for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like these.
Number 9. The Flood.
In the book of Genesis in the Old Testament, a great flood is sent by God to rid the world of the abominations known as the Nephilim. And in the ancient Babylonian text, the Epic of Gilgamesh, God sends a flood to destroy humanity.
In both stories, humanity is saved by a single man who was given warning and told to build a large boat. In the ancient religions of the Greeks and the Romans, there are multiple mythological tales of angry gods that flooded the world and destroyed the human race. One of the lesser-known Greek myths is of the hero Deucalion, who took shelter on an ark with his wife when the gods flooded the world. In the legends of many Native American tribes, there is a similar story. People take shelter in a giant boat to be saved from a flood which sweeps across the planet. Every corner of the globe told stories of a great flood. James Perloff, a creationist scholar, has studied over 200 such flood myths. During his in-depth investigations, James has learned that a global flood appears in 95% of ancient cultures, and 70% of those include humanity being saved by a large boat. Additionally, in 57% of the global flood stories, the survivors all find salvation on a mountain. It's clear that something happened in ancient history to inspire the same legend everywhere, but do you think the flood covered the whole world at the same time? Or do you think there were different floods throughout history? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Number 8. Pre-human burials. Researchers have recently uncovered evidence that's going to change human history. Scientists identified ancient burials from 100,000 years before human beings existed. In a shocking case of historical coincidences, it turns out our ancient ancestors, Homo naledi, came up with the idea of burials long before modern humans. Homo naledi was an archaic human species that boasted a brain about 1/3 the size of a current human's brain. But if their brains were so small, how did they come up with the idea to build cemeteries? And why did they conduct funerals? These are the questions scientists with National Geographic Explorer are trying to answer. The team first discovered fossils from a Homo naledi graveyard in 2013 inside a cave system in South Africa, known as the Rising Star Cave System. And amazingly, it's located right in the cradle of humanity. Scientists say the story of human evolution started here, in this dusty rural corner of South Africa.
The burials are very simple. Adults and children were laid gently in shallow graves and covered in soil, but they predate all Homo sapien burials by 100,000 years, as they were completed around 335,000 years ago.
Researchers have also found cave art scrawled on the walls, proving that the ancient species boasted intense creativity. But here's the part that's truly shocking. The cave art made by Homo naledi is nearly identical to cave art found in other places in South Africa that was supposedly made by both humans and Neanderthals. For now, at least, nobody can explain it. All of these different human species were conducting the same burial rituals and practicing the same artwork. What this discovery means in terms of evolution is staggering, and it leaves us with more questions than answers. So, what do you think? Did our big brains really make us special? Were our ancestors just as clever as we are today? And did the missing link ever really exist at all? Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments. Number 7. The God icon. The God icon is a strange symbol found across many continents at countless archaeological sites, including in ancient Egypt, the jungles of Bolivia, the lost kingdoms of Indonesia, and the once powerful tribes of Nigeria. It seems as though everywhere on the planet, archaeologists have identified the God icon. In all of these places is the exact same image of either a god or a hero, and the figure is always holding the same object in either hand. Normally, the objects are staffs, but sometimes they are depicted as weapons or animals. The god icon of Giraffe is depicted holding 2 scorpions by the tail, and the god icon of Sumer is holding a pair of snake staffs. But what's the significance behind the god icon? Experts honestly don't know. But they do believe it had something to do with balancing forces. It may have been a symbol of how a god must weigh good and evil, or maybe it was alluding to the duality between spiritual and physical strength. The god icon may have even been a total fluke, nothing but a mere coincidence. Take, for example, the logo for Starbucks. That's a god icon with the Starbucks mermaid lady holding 2 objects in her hands that are exactly the same. There's also another god icon at the Rockefeller Center, showing just how deep the roots of this symbol go. Number 6. Giants around the globe. The only thing more common in ancient mythologies than a flood is a race of giants. In nearly every single civilization's mythology, there were giants, and they were the enemies of humanity. Humans typically defeat the giants, banishing them from the world and ushering in a golden era of prosperity. Nobody knows for sure if giants ever really walked the earth, but the ancients certainly told stories like they did. Some giants were weirder than others. In the Basque region of France and Spain, the Gentile were giants who inhabited the land before Christianity ever existed. They were strong and hairy beasts who built stone circles. Scholars think this may have been a tale told by the Basque to explain why there were so many ancient megaliths across their landscape. And legend has it that the Gentile giants went extinct after a bright cloud bloomed in the sky, a sign representing the birth of Jesus Christ. There was Goliath from the Book of Samuel, defeated by little David, and in Greek mythology, the Cyclops Polyphemus is described as a one-eyed giant born from Poseidon's sea nymph Thoosa. He lived on an island with other Cyclops, and they all tended sheep together. They were also described as a peaceful people. That is, until humans showed up. That's when the giants started committing horrible atrocities and began eating human flesh. Number 5. Secrets of the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were named after their headquarters at Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the very place where King Solomon's temple stood during biblical times in 970 BC. The Templars didn't show up until over 2,000 years later, with their original ranks consisting of about 300 knights. The Templars started small and grew rapidly, and soon there were 900 soldiers in the organization, but even then, they continued to grow. They had their own blacksmiths, cooks, and priests on staff. And as their power mounted, the Knights Templar gained control over 2,000 castles. They had more land than they even knew what to do with, and they didn't need to pay taxes. They were supposed to be protecting pilgrims, which they certainly did. But then the Crusades fell apart in 1291 AD, and the Holy Land was taken over by the Muslims. When this happened, the Templars were forced out. They then shifted from protecting pilgrims to managing finance and real estate. The Templars eventually got into banking and soon became one of the richest organizations of the Middle Ages. The biggest problem for the Templars was their lack of openness. There was a small group at the top of the organization who made all their decisions in complete secrecy. When King Philip IV of France turned against the Templars, he used the practice of secrecy against them. Philip accused the knights of practicing black magic and desecrating the cross. Then, on October 13th, 1307 AD, the Templars were rounded up and burned alive. So, any information they may have had about ancient secrets was lost 700 years ago. What information do you think the Knights Templars kept hidden in their secret organization? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 4. The goddess cults. There were 3 strange religions practiced in ancient Rome at around the same time Christianity was founded. 3 cults, of which very little is known, dominated the religious scene. There was the cult of Cybele, the cult of Isis, and the cult of Mithras. These cults grew in popularity at the beginning of the 2nd century AD. The old deities like Zeus and Poseidon had fallen out of favor with the rise of Christ. And suddenly, the Romans were obsessed with cult worship. Nobody really knows why, but many gravitated toward the cults of goddesses from faraway lands, primarily places like Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. Scholars have suggested that without these mystery cults, Christianity never would have taken off. People appear to have been searching for religions that gave them a sense of personal salvation, so it's easy to see how Christianity was able to get a foothold in such an environment. The 3 main cults were all very similar, but scholars can't say exactly how. Scientists know there were complicated initiation ceremonies, but the precise details were never recorded. The various cults also shared symbolism, and of course, 2 of them worshipped goddesses. Practicing a monotheistic religion centered around a female god was something exciting and new. Cybele was the mother goddess of Anatolia, and Isis was the Egyptian goddess of fertility and the harvest. Only Mithras was a male, the sun god of ancient Zoroastrianism. Number 3. The halo. When looking through the ancient religions of the world, you'll notice one feature that most of them share. Christianity, Hinduism, Greek mythology, and Zoroastrianism all have one thing in common. They all use the symbol of the halo. In ancient artwork from Egypt to India, people drew holy figures with a circular disc of light around their heads. It was a symbol of divinity and power. There were rayed halos like the one you can see on the Statue of Liberty. And in Persia, they used a flaming halo. But wherever you look, the halo symbol is more or less the same. A circular crown motif. But where in the world did it come from? Like so many symbols of power that have come and gone, the halo likely originated in Egypt. It was likely first seen with the solar deity Ra. The halo was used as a literal representation of the sun. That's why it was put above Ra's head, to show the sun shining above him. And when you look at an ancient depiction of Ra next to a modern picture of Jesus, it's shocking to see that the halo hovering over both their heads is the exact same symbol. From Egypt, the halo symbol changed and evolved. Other cultures eventually picked it up and started using it as a crown of light to adorn their favorite gods and heroes. This would be how Jesus came to adopt the same symbol as his predecessor, Ra. Number 2. The invention of kissing. At some point in the history of humankind, people decided they were going to show affection by smushing their lips together, and scientists have recently been trying to figure out how it happened. How did people all across the globe coincidentally decide, without ever talking about it, that kissing would be the gold standard of affection? New research conducted by scientists with the University of Copenhagen and the University of Oxford has revealed a shocking truth in the history of kissing. A cuneiform tablet from 4,500 years ago was unearthed in Mesopotamia. Upon the ancient piece of stone is an image of 2 humans engaging in lip-to-lip contact. The tablet is obvious evidence of kissing already being mainstream in 2500 BC. And similar images have been found in South Asia as well, but from about 1500 BC. Dr. Troels Pank Arbel from the University of Copenhagen says kissing may not have been a custom that developed over time, but is rather an inherent human behavior. It might not have been a coincidence at all, but something that's baked into our DNA. The doctor cites chimpanzees as an example. Chimps and bonobos have been seen engaging in lip contact, suggesting that we may have developed the urge to smooch from our primate ancestors. Number 1. The hidden Christians. For generations, a family in Japan has been holding on to a very controversial artifact. The artifact is a vase, which in all honesty isn't particularly exciting to look at. It's only notable because of a single word scrawled on its bottom. The word is esencia, which in Spanish means fragrant oil. Experts believe the vase was once used in forbidden religious ceremonies in Japan that required oils from Spain. Seeing as how long it's been preserved by a family, it's likely the vase was originally owned by a prominent member of society. The person who handed the vase over to scientists to study the artifact says his roots can be traced back to ancient times near the city of Nagasaki. And coincidentally, it was in Nagasaki, during the medieval days, that Catholicism was practiced. The message of Jesus Christ was brought to Japan by missionaries in the 16th century. And after that, the religion began to spread. However, it was quickly banned by the island's leaders. The vase is one of the few surviving relics from a time when Christians practiced their religion in secret in southern Japan. The vase held sacred fragrant oils used in Catholic ceremonies like baptisms. The abolition of Catholicism in Japan is a little-known piece of the country's history, and yet it's extremely important. If it hadn't been for the religion being banned, Japan may have become a predominantly Christian nation. Only a few people continued to practice Christianity into the 17th century, but of course, this was mainly done in secret. Thanks for watching! Which of these historical coincidences shocked you the most? What would you like to learn more about? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up for more. See you next time! Bye!